Duke basketball is going to be back in action this weekend. It's the Brotherhood Run, Duke versus Arizona State from inside Cameron Indoor Stadium. I think there's a thing or two that we'll be able to learn about the squad going into the new season this weekend.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It is so great to have you here with us on Friday, October 25th, 2024. Thank God it's Friday. We made it to the end of another week, and we've got excitement this weekend with Duke Athletics. On Sunday, it's the Brotherhood Run, where Duke men's basketball will take on Arizona State. And then on Saturday, we've got a fun football game, Duke and SMU, set to go head-to-head from Wallace Wade Stadium. So busy weekend there in Durham, and we're going to talk about all of it today on the program with our good pal, Conor ONeal from Devils Illustrated. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Like these videos if you watch them on YouTube. That's where you can find the show as well. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share the video with your friend and comment. We love interacting with you in the comments of these videos, and let's keep growing this Locked On Blue Devils community. We're on X at LO_Blue Devils, and you can follow me there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. Really, really excited to see Duke basketball in action once again this weekend. The debut against Lincoln in exhibition format last weekend was great, but up in the competition a little bit, I think we're going to be really pleased with what we see out of this Duke squad. So let's bring him on into today's program. The aforementioned Conor ONeal is here with us once again, and we were just talking. We're set for another back-to-back weekend here. A lot of activity going on there in Durham.
Yeah, I appreciate the schedule makers, I guess. I wasn't going to say schedule gods because it's not like it's up to a divine power, but I appreciate the schedule makers for spacing these out and making them both at night after last weekend's, what was it, a 7 o'clock football game and a 1 o'clock basketball game.
Right. Yeah, given a little bit more time to focus on these things, and excited to kind of dive into what we're going to see with the Duke basketball team in particular, taking on Arizona State. There's the Bobby Hurley angle and all of this and so much more. I think I'm curious for you, Conor. You left last weekend with that basketball game. What's kind of the one or two big takeaways that you might have had from the first kind of official opportunity to see Duke play somebody other than themselves?
Yeah, I think my main takeaway is I think this team is kind of going to be if things go right for this Duke team, if they're the best version of themselves, they're going to basically be this hybrid Frankenstein of Jon Scheyer's first two teams, right? So the first year John was there, that team was a lockdown defensive team. They could hold teams to, 0.8 points per possession. They were so good defensively, and a lot of it centered around Derek Lively, but also what he could give you as a shot blocker around the rim meant that guards could gamble a little more. You could give up drives, like you could overplay because you knew that nobody was getting a layup if Derek was on the court. That's a characteristic I see in this team with Kama and Cooper in the middle. The length they're able to put on the court, nobody under 6'5". And then I think of last year's team as a really good shooting team. Like that team could get hot, just rain threes on you. They'd come in bunches. I remember I think it was the Syracuse game, the Malik Brown game, where I think they were 9 for 9 in the second half on threes or something like that. It was something crazy where they didn't make one in the first half and then couldn't miss in the second half. I think this team can be along those lines of that good of a shooting team, especially if Cooper Flagg is going to make 2 or 3 a game like he did against Lincoln. So I look at this as being kind of the two best versions of what Duke has been the last 2 years can be what this team kind of leans on with how good they can be defensively and how good they can shoot the ball.
I think this team's going to be remarkable to watch all season long with the highlight plays that we saw. Again, it's just Lincoln, but now you'll get kind of to up the competition a little bit this weekend. And there's so much talk about Cooper Flagg going into the year. He's a first-team preseason All-American, picked to be one of the best players in the entire ACC, picked to be ACC Rookie of the Year, and yet the debut we saw from him kind of proved to be an example of why the hype is there. I mean, he was just making plays all over the floor.
Yeah, I can't. I'm kind of going into Sunday hoping he has a good shooting game because I want to ask him. It's not like I saw a ton of Cooper before he got to Duke, but my main impression of Cooper on the AAU circuit and watching Mount Bear games on TVs were his shot had a little bit of a hitch to it. Like, it was a little hitchy at the top. I think he's cleaned that up. I think it's a lot smoother, and I think a lot of that work has been done in the last 4 to 5 months. And I want to talk to him to just confirm that, because I've kind of gone into the season thinking he's not going to be a scorer. Like, he's more likely to give you a triple double than he is score 30 points and carry your offense. I think that his strength is in overall game more than it is as a scorer. But if he's going to shoot the way he did against Lincoln, like if he's going to hit threes where he doesn't have his legs under him and all of a sudden he's able to kind of gather himself and rise like he did on the top of the key three, I think it was in the first half, that changes the evaluation process for him. That, not that I think he has no more ceiling to get to. He's the projected number 1 pick. I think he's going to be the number 1 pick. It's not like he can go higher than that, but it just changes what you think he can do for this team if he can actually shoot the ball at an elite level. And we're 1 game in. It was against the D2. He's going to see better defenders all year than he saw last weekend. But that's kind of what stokes my curiosity at this point with Cooper and where his game is.
Well, I'm excited to see what this weekend looks like against Arizona State for Cooper Flagg in particular, and then some other players as well. The lineup was something that created a little bit of conversation with who Duke chose to be in that starting 5. I'm curious if there could be any changes to that. Your thoughts on that, Conor, and we'll talk about that after we take our first timeout. That's a teaser for folks in the business here on this episode of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks, the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You can pick more or less on about at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with Prize Picks, winning up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. Prize Picks has greats like Drewski, Joe Budden, MMA champ Sean O'Malley, and so much more are in on the action, where you can now find community plays under the promos tab to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each and every week. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege. You'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. Very excited to have Prize Picks here with us on the Locked On Podcast Network and here with Locked On Blue Devils. Our show today is also brought to you by Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel your best tomorrow. So go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with 100% money guarantee. So if you're not satisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege and use the code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout for 15% off. ZBiotics is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. We're back. Conor ONeal's here with us from Duke Rivals. Devils Illustrated is the name of the website, and we're talking about Duke basketball getting set for the Brotherhood run. People wanted to talk about that starting five that Duke had and whether or not it could be a different one for this game against Arizona State, Conor.
Not that I would well, I don't think you can gamble on it, but I would very much put money on there being a different starting lineup for Sunday. Just not based on any insider information, just taking what John Shire said after Saturday's game last week. He kind of confirmed that they will have a different look. He's just trying to figure out what combinations work best. So you might have to remind me of who was in the starting lineup. I think it was Sion instead of Tyrese, and Maalik instead of Common. And that all makes it. I mean, the Maalik over Common one intrigues me because Common told us after the game that he has a hairline fracture in, I think it's his left hand or wrist. He still played. Like he had, I don't know what he finished with. I think around the 20 minutes neighborhood, but he had 12 minutes in the first half. I mean, he seems fine. He was wearing a glove on it. We had some jokes on press row before we knew that it was actually an injury, that he was going to go get on a Harley after the game. And it was fun to visualize a 7'2", 250-pounder getting on a
motorcycle.
Getting on a motorcycle there. But that one's one that maybe that sticks. But John was asked about Tyrese coming off the bench, and he kind of politely blew that question off as just like, no, Tyrese, he's going to be there for us. I think you'll see both returning guards in the starting lineup, or you could see it mixed up where Tyrese starts and Caleb Foster comes off the bench. But yeah, I would bank on it being different.
Yeah, and Proctor was the second leading scorer for the Duke team with 19 points, right behind Cooper Flagg's 22. Knueppel was a part of the starting five, and man, his debut was pretty incredible with those 5 threes in the first half and a poster dunk there in the second that surprised everybody, I feel like, myself included.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a good view of the posterization, and I thought he and Cooper were going to take each other out because they both made a beeline to the same exact spot. They both saw that hole on the backside. I can't remember who gave it. It might have been
Common. It was Common.
It was a pass from Common. Yeah, like it was a bounce pass to the spot more than it was to either one of them, and it was just which one of them was going to get it and go up, and could they not like run into each other and bang heads and make it look like a cartoon. But yeah, man, Con is a heck of a player, and it's funny because it feels like the Duke community that watches every single practice clip that comes out in the summer and really dives in and is fully immersed to what's going on in this program. They all kind of know about Con already, but it's kind of fun to see the rest of the college basketball world realize we know about Cooper. They know about Common because he's also seen as a projected lottery pick, and he had some, like, him reclassing and his commit were very public.
The Olympic was just kind of over the summer, and
Con was just kind of another cog, but now people are finding out more and more like, oh, if they could have a freshman leading scorer and it wouldn't be all that crazy if it's not Cooper Flagg because of how good Knueppel is, because he is a legitimate, like, we think he's probably going to shoot around 40% on threes or better. I think it's going to help him that Reed Shepherd just had the season he had at Kentucky, because that's another guy that you're looking at and saying he's not going to blow you away with his athleticism, but he's always under control and he shoots at an incredibly high clip. I think that's the different positions, obviously, with Reed playing more point guard. I don't think Con's going to play any point guard on this team, but I think that's kind of the lineage that Con is going to follow in college basketball this year.
So what jumps out to you about the game coming up this weekend against Arizona State in particular?
I want to see if it's crazy. And I was having some fun asking them about this. Duke did come out of the Lincoln game with some things on the to-do list to clean up. Like they gave up 10 offensive rebounds. I think they got lost in some defensive rotations and gave up some easier buckets than they would have liked to. It's hard to get a young team to understand that they have things that they need to clean up after they win a game by 51. And, everybody's getting their dunks and getting highlight clips, and they're kind of the term that comes to mind is like feeling their oats. I don't even know where that comes from. I didn't even know that was in my linguistics until a couple days ago. But I want to see them clean up the things that they came away from the Lincoln game saying they needed to be better with. I think Caleb Foster had the quote to me that was like, we need to clean those things up or they're going to, that's what's going to get us beat this year. Like giving up offensive rebounds, giving up second chance points. That's going to, we're still a ways away from saying what this team's Achilles heel could be. But those are just the early things that you want to get addressed now so that they don't hurt you in games that actually matter. So I'll be really interested to seeing how those things have been worked out in the last, whatever it is, 8 days or 7 days since they've last played.
So Arizona State, the opponent, a little more on the Sun Devils with Bobby Hurley's return. Arizona State leaves the Pac-12, doesn't really exist this season. And now they're a part of the Big 12, 16 teams in the Big 12, and Arizona State picked to finish 12th of all of those teams. They've got a couple of young freshmen, Jaden Quaintance being one of them. I think that's really going to garner a lot of headlines and attention all season long. A Raleigh kid who had been from Word of God Academy, committed to Kentucky, and then Coach Cal leaves. He goes to open up his recruitment again and ends up with Bobby Hurley there. I think that's one of the bigger names to be aware of going into the game tomorrow. And he's super young, Conor. I was looking, He's 6 months younger than Cooper Flagg is. So we got a pair of 17-year-olds.
If I'm not mistaken, I think these are the two youngest players in college basketball.
I couldn't think of anyone younger. Yeah.
and I know like Quaintance is ineligible for the draft next summer because you have to, what is it? You have to turn
at
19,
least 18. Yeah.
You have to turn 19 in the year of the draft. And do 1 year of college basketball. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think they'll be matched up against each other, but maybe they wind up. I mean, you don't just guard one person throughout the whole defensive set. So maybe they wind up seeing each other. But yeah, I'll confess to not knowing all that much about Arizona State right now. I've been immersed in football preview coverage.
Sure.
I do see that last year Arizona State was one of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the country. They only rebounded 22% of their misses on KenPom. So that's if Duke gives up a bunch of offensive rebounds and second chance points to this team, then either Arizona State has a completely different approach to offensive rebounding than they had last year, or maybe that really is a concern for Duke as much as it can be through 2 preseason games. But yeah, it more than anything, it'll be interesting to see Bobby Hurley back in Cameron. That's the one that you can just latch onto. That's a story right there.
Yeah, with his players looking up into the rafters, they're going to see 2 national championships that he helped win in 91 and 92, and then also looking up and seeing that champion or the number 11 jersey retired for Bobby Hurley. And then just a fun fact for everyone out there, his son, also named Bobby Hurley, is on the team for Arizona State. I think we need a moment, Conor, where he gets into it's an exhibition. I think he deserves to get a little bit of run in the same. That'd be so cool for their family, I think.
Yeah, that's got to happen. I'm sitting here trying to calculate how many Hurleys can be in college basketball at the same time. Yeah, I would think there's got to be some kind of plan to get him in there for the last minute or two. It's not like anybody's fouling down 8 and trying to get the ball back and extend the game in these preseason exhibitions. It's kind of perfect basketball. Like no matter what the score is, you just play out the end of it.
Yeah.
Nobody's calling timeouts to draw up plays. That's kind of more the closed door scrimmage aspect of things than these charity exhibitions are.
All right, it's going to be on Sunday night, ACC Network to view it, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at this Duke football game coming up against SMU after we take this last break here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. I'm looking at the odds right now in FanDuel. Duke football getting set for this game against SMU, and right now the Mustangs an 11.5-point favorite against our Duke Blue Devils. Hopefully we've got an upset brewing there in Durham. With FanDuel, you can see the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Check it all out, FanDuel.com. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. FanDuel is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Back on the show here today, JJ Jackson alongside Conor ONeal of Devils Illustrated. Tell me about the website, Conor.
Oh my gosh. We got plenty of stuff up right now. Devils Illustrated. The address is duke.rivals.com. Just this morning, there was a feature posted about Duke's defensive line and how deep it is. We've got coverage from the Lincoln game. We'll have a preview up for the Arizona State game. If not today, it'll be up Saturday early, so you can get that read before all the college football madness starts. Go check out the message board. It's a lot of stuff going on. It's a busy time of year.
All of a sudden, in the middle of the week, we get a commitment for Duke men's basketball over at the website, and already there's coverage right there from Conor. He's on top of it, ready to go, man.
Yeah, and that was one that nobody saw coming, but and it's funny. The morning of Nicholas Kamenia committing, I had said, along with a lot of other people, that it felt like UCLA. And then when he committed to Duke, I had to go only 10 or 11 days back to where I had a trusted source tell me that the next up after the Boozer twins would be Nicholas Kamenia. So it's a good lesson in trusting and believing some sources more than you trust and believe other sources. And that one was one for me.
I love it. All right. So Duke football this weekend, taking on SMU, massive underdogs compared to what we've seen from them so far this season. I mean, I guess we start there in a lot of ways off of a exhilarating, historic program, kind of defining never beat Florida State win before. Now, all of a sudden, it's a Duke team that is the underdog playing at home here against this SMU team.
It's easy to get a team to buy into the nobody believes in us when Vegas makes you about a 12-point underdog at home against a team that you have the same overall record as. It's an interesting one. I think Duke just doesn't inspire a lot of confidence because their strength of schedule has not been great and their offense seems to be regressing. And I know there's a lot of angst and consternation about why the offense is regressing. It has, I think, so much more to do with losing both of your tight ends that have significant experience, having an extremely limited Jordan Moore, who is your best receiver, still missing Jaquez Moore from the running back room. And they're going to do what it takes to win games. And when you create 3 turnovers on 3 straight snaps and go from down 3-0 to up 17-3, your game plan changes. And so the interesting part of this with Duke's in regard to Duke's offense is SMU stops the run. Like that's the one thing they do better than anybody else in the ACC. They only give up about 88 rushing yards per game. They haven't been gashed by anybody. There's no game where you can say like, well, this team was really good against them and maybe Duke can replicate that. They've been good in 7 games against the run. They give up passes. They give up chunk plays through the air. And part of that has to do with game script. Like SMU has gotten up 2 and 3 touchdowns on people. That's going to lead to you playing some off coverage and giving up some 12 and 15 yard passes. That's going to happen. But if you're looking at the numbers and adding it up, it's like, well, Duke might have to actually throw the ball to win this game. And how much faith do they have in Maalik Murphy to throw the ball to win this game? How much faith do they have in the receivers to get open? And so that's going to be fascinating to watch. I kind of can't wait to watch how that plays out, because it's such a tug of war versus what SMU does well. What Duke wants to do is run the ball. So can Duke break from what they want to do and do what they might actually have an advantage doing against SMU's defense?
Yeah, talking about the passing game in particular, I go back and forth a good bit, Conor, and I don't know necessarily that I have to pick a side, but in the spirit of trying to pick one, I go back and forth frequently on, is this a Maalik Murphy thing over the last few weeks to really take it to that next level? Or is it more on the pass catchers and not getting open, drops, whatever it may be? I can't end up settling on one or the other. I think they both definitely need to improve, though.
Yeah, it's such a symbiotic relationship. Like, you have to throw the ball accurately for the ball to be caught. You also have to get open. Like, this isn't the NFL where you can just constantly throw back shoulders on the money. Like, I always think back to something that a football player at Elon told me when I was a student at Elon. The window in high school to throw is basically the size of a door. Like, if you put the ball anywhere inside a door, you're throwing it where it needs to be thrown. In college, it's the size of a window. Like, if you throw it anywhere in like a normal house window,
right,
then that's where the ball needs to go. In the pros, it's like one section of the window. Like, it's we see the tires. I think they use them in the Pro Bowl skills stuff.
Yep.
It's that small. It's that tight. So you go back to college in the Maalik Murphy discussion, like, you don't have to be throwing the ball through the tire in college. You also, I think there's a fine line, is what I'm getting at there. And I think Maalik Murphy has the capability. I've kind of lost my train of thought here with the point I'm trying to make, but yeah, I think it goes hand in hand with receivers getting open and with Maalik throwing accurate balls. I don't think the blame should be placed on any one side of the equation here.
You had that story about the defensive line as we switch sides of the ball to kind of wrap things up here today. What does that front have to do in particular to keep Duke in this football game? If they want any shot of winning the game, they've got to score more than SMU, obviously, so you got to keep them off the scoreboard.
They've basically got to be the first team that throws Kevin Jennings off of his rhythm and makes him uncomfortable. SMU did change quarterbacks, and they had a really good quarterback last year, Preston Stone, who entered the year as a starter, and it's kind of surprising that they were as quick as they were to pull the trigger. But then you see what their offense looks like with Kevin Jennings. He's run for, I think, about 140 yards in the last 3 games. He's really gotten more comfortable with more starts. So Duke's defense is going to have to pressure him. They're going to have to blitz him, but also you have to keep contained against a mobile quarterback. You can't let him slip the pocket, or he's going to chew up 20 to 30 yards on you running through the secondary. So it's a tall task for Duke's defense this week. And to their credit, they've been up to every task so far.
Excited to see it all play out, and I know you're going to have a lot of good coverage over there at the website. Conor, one more time before you head out of here, how can people get involved? How can they support you?
Devils Illustrated, Duke.Rivals.com. A membership is like $8.33 a month.
Worth it.
If I don't say so, it is worth it.
Yeah. Thanks for the time, Conor. We'll talk again soon, okay?
Thanks, JJ.
All right, that's Conor ONeal joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Always appreciate his weekly thoughts and insights about both Duke football and men's basketball. That's going to do it for our show here today. Best of luck to both teams this weekend there in Durham. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you on Monday. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.